I'm curious about this early phase when you did your surgical residency. 3 years,
I did 3 years of surgical residency.
and then you moved into emergency medicine.
I moved into emergency medicine.
What was the trigger that caused that?
Well, these are all mistakes.
Mistakes.
Mistakes, of course. Lots of mistakes. And that's the other thing. My mother, she never blamed me for any mistakes. She just sort of expected that you would figure it out. You know, as a matter of fact, when I got into a few medical schools, it was quite impressive because at graduation from PACE, you know, when they call you across the stage, they actually stopped and mentioned, this graduate had all these opportunities. So when I'm there trying to figure out where I'm going to medical school, my mother said, go to Yale. And that's what I did. I went to Yale. You know, and it's interesting because I always did what she wanted me to do, but she never forced me to do anything. Anyway, when I finished Yale, I was enamored with surgery. Yes, this is a wonderful thing. I'm going to become a plastic surgeon, and I'm going to, go do my general surgery residency and So I went to Mount Sinai, and coming out of Yale was a little different. Yale was a different kind of medical school. First of all, we never had exams. So here it is, you go through a pre-medical program, everybody's testing you all the time, and all of a sudden you go to this place and these people say, well, we know you're bright because you're here. So since you're here, we expect you to just study. Your study will be up to you. You pursue this independent course of study. You don't have to go to lectures. All you have to do is you have to always go to these conferences where we have discussions, and you don't have to take an exam. All you have to do is at the end of the second year, you need to pass the boards. And if you don't pass the boards, you can't move along. And that's how it was. So we would do independent study. That's how we did medical school. Many people can't handle that, and many people don't succeed in that process. But I was in my glory because I hated exams. I never liked taking exams. I always wanted to study what I wanted to study, and so the funny thing is I always went to class. I liked going to class. That was one of my things. I guess it was my upbringing, going to class. So I would go to class, and classes were, for the most part, quite interesting. It's people don't become Nobel laureates because they're uninteresting. They're usually very interesting. And to sit in a class and hear, somebody like George Palade talk about the cell and cell biology, and the guy who discovered one of the organelles in the cell talk about it, it's an opportunity of a lifetime. So I came out and I was like so many Yale graduates. I was going to become some big hotshot, plastic surgeon, and I'd be fixing faces of all the stars and whatever. So I went to Mount Sinai, and it really wasn't exactly like that. All of a sudden, I went back into the real world. What I didn't like was that people started telling me what to do again. My senior resident was telling me what to do. Everybody was telling me what to do, and I didn't like that. I was not cut out that way. By the time I got to the third year, we were having lots of issues. I was involved with, let's say there were issues with the administrative people. So I'll give you an example. This is back in the, I guess we're talking about early 1980. So back then, I remember one day a crazy person took a gun and shot one of the doctors at the VA. So the VA, being the United States government, decided that what they would do is they would put up a screening process so that people don't come into the hospital with guns. Back then, nobody was being searched for anything, pretty much. But the VA started to do this. So they would put this, metal detector at the entrance into the VA hospital, and I was doing one of my rotations there in surgery. I didn't think, or I didn't believe that I should be searched to go into a hospital. Here it was, I was a surgical resident. So I would refuse to let them search me. And of course, I'm dealing with the federal government, and they say, well, gee, where did you come from? You're going to be searched. So the first time I refused to be searched, they pulled me over and they handcuffed me and they put me off to the side and da-da-da-da. So finally, the surgical department come and pull me out of this. So the next day comes, I still am not going to be searched. So you can't go in. So here it is. The surgical resident can't go into the hospital to do his studies. And this went on, days passed, weeks passed, and I'm not going to work because I won't let them search me and they won't let me come in unless I get searched. So, we started having these obstacles. Now, of course, there weren't too many mentors around to call me over and say, come on, guy, let me straighten you out and help you out a little bit. There was nobody, so I was on my own. I didn't tell my mother these things, that this was all going on. As it turns out, eventually we were having another issue, and they eventually evicted me out of my apartment. So I just quit. I just told them, I'm done. And I walked away. I didn't realize you couldn't walk away from a surgical residency. And as a result, I had to find something else to do. So, at that point, I was already a licensed physician. So I got a job. I went to Kings County. And I started working in the emergency room using my surgical skills. And, I started sewing up people in the ER, and things are going well. But then I ran up against the administrative people again. Back then, I don't know how it is now, but it was a dirty place. And, I didn't think that you should be treating patients in a dirty place. So I would have my standard. I would go in and I would say, this is a dirty room. I will not work here. I need somebody to come and clean this room. So if nobody came, I would go get the mop and I would sweep the room and I would clean the room. And of course, that would make people upset. Why is this doctor mopping the floor and sweeping the room? And so after a couple of years, I was there for about 10 years. After a while, they got tired of me, and when they found the opportunity, they fired me. Things weren't going so well. This guy keeps getting quitting or getting fired. Then it clicked. Well, maybe I can't work for other people. Maybe at that point, I actually had already started my practice. I was already doing my own thing. But, we need jobs, especially early in your career. You need jobs. You need to put together your resources. I eventually, at a certain point, said, I'm just going to do this on my own. I am a licensed physician. I have training. I am beginning to understand. So maybe it's time now I set my own mission statement. I set my own goals, and I should move it. And that started about in the I would say 1995. So from about that point, I was moving fully in towards my goals in my direction, establishing the kind of medical practice that I wanted to establish. We talked about, where you were back then. When I applied to medical school, we all go through the same process. Everybody who wants to go to medical school go through the same process. You got to do pre-med. After you do pre-med, then you have to create some reason why you want to become a doctor. Well, again, because I didn't know what doctoring was when I decided I wanted to become a doctor, I had to create a reason why I wanted to become a doctor. So life, the way life is, found ways to educate me. I remember one day I was out in the street and there was a car accident, and I ran to the accident and I, provided first aid. Another time, I saw somebody sick and I ran, and I like that. I like running to rescue. So there was that aspect. But as I developed the philosophy of the way my life should be, what I realized is that I wanted to change things for people. And it may sound trite, but that's what most people who want to become doctors decide. They want to change life for other people. And I felt that I wanted to influence the health of all people that came within the sphere of my influence. And the only way I could really do that is to establish my own, to pull together my own resources, set my own mission, and do it the way that I think I should be doing it. So hence I'm here.